Everyone feared the Millionaire until the new black waitress silenced him in front of everyone. Tuesday, the Seattle sky was veiled with a film of clouds thin as wax paper. The glass door of Aroma and Grounds on the corner of Capitol Hill chimed its familiar ting, and the storm in a gray suit walked in as if the place belonged to him. Grant Donovan, 45, CEO of Donovan Construction, sharp cologne, shoes polished like mirrors. Behind the counter, employees exchanged brief glances. Carla Jenkins, 52, barista, single mother of 2, was wiping her hands while keeping an eye on the steaming milk. On the stone counter sat a glass jar of sugar, filled to the brim. Grant picked up the jar, twisted it as if about to perform a trick, then deliberately flipped it over. White sugar spilled in a thick streak, cascading from the counter down to the floor. The jar struck the edge, cracking with a sharp ch. No one laughed. A few students tapping away at laptops lifted their heads in bewilderment. "Pick this mess up with your mouth." Grant spoke evenly, eyes unblinking. Each word slid across the counter like a thin blade. Carla froze, then bent down, her calloused hands trembling as she tried to gather the sugar. I'm sorry, sir." "Call me Mr. Donovan." He leaned in across the counter, his voice just loud enough for the whole room to hear. "There are paying customers here. Respect is basic." A child at the corner table covered his ears. His mother pulled the chair closer. Mark Collins, 40, the shift manager, hurried forward with an awkward smile. "Mr. Donovan, I'll take care of it right away." Grant slammed his fist on the stone surface. Cups rattled violently. "Take care? What I see is a bunch of people who can't work. I've got $1 million meeting. I don't have time for incompetence." At the far end of the counter, Isla Morgan, 24, on her very first day, froze in place. Her hair was neatly tied, her apron still stiff with newness. She saw everything. Carla bent low, sugar sticking to her palms, a shard from the cracked jar slicing across the back of her hand. Blood bloomed red against white. Grant ground his shoe over the sugar, crushing it into fine dust, smearing the mess wider. "Faster," he barked. "In Seattle, people like you were born to serve." The cafe fell so silent the hiss of wind outside could be heard. Mark bowed as if before a judge. "Mr. Donovan, please calm down. We will—" "Calm down?" Grant growled. A boy whimpered in tears. He flicked a jagged piece of glass to the floor. Its sharp edge grazed Carla's hand, drawing another cry. "You dirtied my sugar. Disgusting." That was when Isla stepped forward. Not because she wasn't afraid, her heart hammered, but because fear wasn't worth Carla's humiliation. She set her tray of cups down, walked straight up to Grant, keeping a single arm's length between them. Her voice was calm, sharp as ice. "You spilled the sugar. Carla did nothing wrong." The air in the cafe seemed sucked out. Mark's eyes went wide. Carla lifted her head, torn between shock and despair. Grant narrowed his gaze. "You're the new girl? Do you even know who I am? You're the man who told a woman to eat sugar off the floor." Isla didn't blink. "And you've crossed the line." Grant stepped closer, his breath heavy with dark espresso. "One phone call and you'll never work in Seattle again." "Are you sure?" "Go ahead, try." His jaw clenched. He slammed both hands on the counter. Dishes clinked and rattled, but Isla didn't flinch. Around the cafe, phones were raised, not just for views, but to bear witness. "Sorry, Carla," Isla said as she bent to help, lifting the older woman gently, pressing napkins against the bleeding cut. Then she turned back to Grant. "You apologize and leave. Or We call the police for harassment and threats." "What?" Grant roared. "Some waitress giving me orders?" "Number, I'm reminding you of limits." Grant ripped his vest straight, grabbed his briefcase, and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the glass quivered. He spun around in the drizzle, yelling, "This isn't over!" Inside, silence fell like a curtain. Mark stood pale. Carla wept, but no longer with shame. Isla gathered the shards, her hands still trembling. She knew the storm would return, and next time it would bring thunder. But when it did, it would meet a rock, soft to the eye but strong enough to grind down the flood of injustice. The next morning the fog lay heavier, as if trying to hide Capitol Hill beneath a damp cloth. The bell at Aroma and Grounds chimed again. Grant Donovan had returned, this time not alone. 2 men in black suits, shoulders broad, blocked the doorway like twin gates. Nearby, customers shrank back, their conversations cut short. "Where's that insolent girl from yesterday?" Grant bellowed from the threshold. An elderly couple instinctively raised their newspaper to cover their faces. Isla emerged from the kitchen, balancing a tray with 4 cappuccinos. She set each cup neatly on its coaster, nodded her thanks to the customers, then turned calmly to face Grant. "Good morning, Mr. Donovan. What would you like today?" That composure only stoked his fury. He stormed forward, looming so large he cast a shadow over the counter. "I want you on your knees, apologizing, in front of everyone." "That won't happen. But if you'd like a double-shot Americano, I can have it ready in a minute." Grant seized Isla's wrist, squeezing until pale marks rose on her skin. "Look at me when I speak. Show some respect." The 2 suited men stepped closer. At a window table, a woman had 911 already open on her phone, finger hovering. Isla lifted her chin, eyes steady. "Let go, right now." Grant sneered. "And if I don't? I've got friends at the precinct." Isla didn't argue. She rotated her wrist sharply, pressing into the soft gap of his thumb joint, a simple self-defense move from a campus class. Grant hissed in pain and let go. "I'll sue you for assault. And I'll submit proof of harassment and physical force." Isla pulled her phone from her apron. "I've been recording since the moment you walked in." Grant glanced around. 3 other phones were raised, their dark screens like unblinking third eyes. He shifted tactics, sliding a wad of bills from his wallet, pinching it between 2 fingers. 5,000. Get on your knees now and apologize. This ends. Save it for your lawyer. 10,000. Don't be stupid. I don't sell dignity. The rejection cut straight into his pride. Grant kicked a chair into the wall. The wood cracked like dry thunder. Mark Collins rushed forward. "Mr. Donovan, please. Isla, you're fired." Isla turned her head, locking eyes with him. "For protecting a co-worker?" Mark snapped, voice trembling. "I'm the manager. I decide who stays and who goes. Number, you don't." A deep, steady voice spoke from the doorway. Robert Morgan entered, navy suit, salt and pepper hair, eyes calm enough to quiet the room. He didn't need to raise his tone. His presence rewrote the rules. Grant sneered. "You, the regional supervisor? Good. Fire her now." Robert looked at Isla, his gaze carrying both warning and pride, then turned back to Grant, voice light as small talk about the weather. "For what reason?" Grant rattled off. "Insulting a VIP, refusing service. Laying hands on me. She doesn't know her place." Robert nodded slightly, as though making a mental note. "Her place is beside me. She's my daughter." The cafe seemed to exhale all at once, followed by sharp gasps. Grant froze mid-breath. "What?" "Good morning, Dad," Isla said softly. Robert held out his hand. "Show me the recording." Isla played the video. Grant's voice, clear as glass. "Pick it up with your mouth, filthy poor, not worth respect." The footage showed Carla kneeling, sugar stained with blood, Grant grinding it under his shoe. Carla stepped forward, her hand bandaged. Her voice trembled, but it carried. "He's humiliated me many times, poured hot coffee, then iced, over me." Luke Porter, 18, added, "Last month, he called me worthless because I was late with one cappuccino." Paula Reed, 30, gripped her receipt. "He mocked me as a dreamer student when he learned I was studying nights." Grant lashed back desperately. "They're lying, all of them, a setup to smear me." Robert shook his head slowly. "No, Mr. Donovan, we've endured long enough. My conclusion, as of now, you are permanently banned from every Aroma and Grounds location. Your photo will be sent to every manager. Step inside and we call 911. Grant growled, eyes blazing, but the crowd no longer feared him. Truth, once caught on a small screen, had become a spotlight that turned power inside out. "I'll sue all of you. Shut this place down, you'll see." "Go ahead," Isla replied evenly. "Before you manage that, we'll have already filed every piece of evidence, video, witness statements, for harassment, threats, and disorderly conduct." Grant stormed out, his voice still spitting threats, but his hands shook. When the glass door finally shut, the cafe released a collective breath, like swimmers breaking the surface of cold water. Robert placed a steady hand on Isla's shoulder. Not praise, but a reminder. The storm wasn't over. Isla understood. A man like Grant wouldn't accept defeat easily. He would find another way. Bribes, supply cuts, staged accidents. All the dirty tactics money could buy. But at least, for today, in this damp Seattle corner, the line had been drawn sharp and clear. Customers paid for coffee, not the right to degrade human dignity, and a modest cafe had managed to raise an invisible shield with 3 fragile-looking things: evidence, unity, and one person brave enough to say no. In his glass-walled office overlooking Elliott Bay, Grant Donovan set his phone on the desk, a thin smile like a knife's edge. He dialed one number after another, his voice slick as oil. The first call, Department of Health. "There are rumors Aroma and Grounds has sanitation issues, milk temps, machine sterilization, cold storage." A sniff on the other end. "Thorough inspections are costly." Grant didn't bother circling. $5,000 for a thick report. $10,000 if you shut them down for a week. "We'll be there in the morning." The second call, suppliers. "Arabica shipment late? I'll bump my Donovan hospitality orders. Just don't deliver to Aroma and Grounds this week." 15 minutes later, milk was also stuck, then sugar. Dominoes fell neatly, money shoving each tile forward. The third call, Seattle Department of Transportation. "That sidewalk stretch in front of the cafe needs to be sectioned for temporary work, just a week. Fee? Not an issue." The last call, Mark Collins, the recently fired manager. In a grocery store lot, Grant slid a $15,000 envelope across. Stage a few mishaps, spills, expired milk claims, hair and pastries. Light, subtle, natural. Mark swallowed hard, staring at the envelope like a lifeline. If just a few accidents. Exactly, just accidents. A lesson in respect. The next morning, 8:02, 4 blue-jacketed health department officers swept into Aroma and Grounds like a task force. Thermometers plunged into milk jugs, flashlights probing grinder seams, clipboards scratching furiously. Customers lingered, then recoiled at the sight and drifted to other cafes. Robert Morgan stood at the counter, voice steady. Give them everything. Record every note, no arguing. Isla circled quietly, checking cooler logs, cleaning records, milk dates, everything by the book. But compliance didn't shield against dirty money raining from high above. By noon, Robert's phone buzzed. The roaster's line was down. 10 minutes later, the dairy short a truck. 10 minutes more, the sugar order held at port. Isla met her father's eyes. No name spoken, both thought the same. Grant. Robert nodded. We pivot. He called an old friend at a Ballard roastery for a borrowed batch. Drove himself to Enumclaw Farm for milk. Borrowed sugar from a nearby bakery. Relationships that couldn't be bought turned into relief valves. Early afternoon, orange cones and S-dot barricades appeared out front. Work zone, pedestrian access restricted. Customers stalled at the fencing, turned away. Robert frowned. Photograph it. Keep records. I'll deal with SDOT later. By 3 p.m., Mark Collins entered with 2 customers. They spread out. One at the walkway, one at the counter, one by the window. 5 minutes in, a latte was accidentally spilled on a slippery floor. 10 minutes later, this milk is sour, though the batch had passed inspection that morning. Another 10, the third man shouted, hair in my pastry. Disgusting. A dark strand, nothing like Paula's cropped blonde. Suspicion tainted the air. A few customers stood, muttering they'd come back later. Luke Porter flushed red over a delayed cappuccino. Paula Reed tried to soothe. I'll replace it, on the house. No, I'm reporting this to the health department. The hair and pastry man barked. Isla walked straight to Mark's table, notebook in hand. How are you, Mark? He jolted. I'm a customer. Her smile was cool. Ordinary customers don't know the milk delivery schedule, or plant hair in their own pastry. She leaned just enough for 2 nearby tables to hear. Leave now. And tell Grant we know. Mark's eyes darted between the envelope at home and the phones filming nearby. He rose, signaled his men, and they slipped out like 3 smears of smoke. It's fine now, Isla murmured to Luke and Paula. Don't let someone else's shame mask your talent. Luke nodded, his hand steadier. The next morning, exactly 10 o'clock, Grant Donovan stormed in like a bullet ricocheting back. He scanned the cafe, not chaos but calm. Packed tables, grinders humming, espresso thick in the air, almost mocking. Where's Robert? Where's Isla? He roared. Robert Morgan stepped out of the office. Isla followed, apron crisp. You're still open? Grant laughed short, shrill. After inspectors, cut suppliers, blocked sidewalks, I paid for all of it. Several phones tilted upward. Isla swiped her screen. Recording. Robert tilted his head. What did you just say? Grant spewed in rage. I bribed health. I bought suppliers. I paid Stott to choke the street. Mark II, $15,000 to dirty this rat hole. Satisfied? His words cracked like a dam breaking. All eyes snapped to Isla's phone, recording quietly. Her voice cut clear. Bribery, commercial sabotage, conspiracy. All being documented. Grant flushed scarlet. I have money. In America, money fixes everything. He leaned closer, chin raised. You're dead to me. And then it hit. A searing pain like a vice clamped his chest. Grant staggered, clutching his heart, sweat breaking cold. He tried to spit one last curse but only wheezed. "Call 911, Isla commanded, sharp as a sergeant. "Clear space. Move this table. Carla, clean towels. Paula, doors." She tore open his shirt, placed both hands center chest, and began compressions steady rhythm. 1, 2, 3. It wasn't performance but choice, to save a man who minutes earlier had confessed to crushing her. The crowd edged back into a circle, eyes locked on Isla's hands driving life into him. From outside, the scream of SFD Medic 1's siren slashed through drizzle. Isla didn't look up. She whispered firmly, evenly, "Breathe, Grant. You won't die in my cafe today." The wail of the siren tore in like a cold blade of fire. SFD Medic 1 appeared through the rain. 2 paramedics pushing a stretcher, another carrying the ALS pack, his voice firm. "Keep the rhythm. Good, we'll take over now." Paula held the door. Robert guided the crowd. Carla handed over fresh towels. Isla shifted left, still compressing until the medic clipped on the monitor, wired leads, and nodded. "We've got a pulse back. Well done." He looked directly at Isla. Without timely CPR, he wouldn't have made it. As the stretcher rolled by, Grant opened his eyes, dazed, ceiling light spinning above him. One fragment stuck, the face of the young woman gasping for air, Isla, the one he had tried to destroy that very morning. The ambulance doors slammed shut. The siren rose again, carrying him toward Harborview Medical Center. The ER waiting room stretched time like pulled taffy. Isla sat, wrists still red where he'd gripped her. Robert handed her a cup of water. Luke and Paula arrived, eyes still wide with shock. Carla placed a hand on Isla's shoulder. "Sweetheart, you just pulled someone back from the edge." Isla exhaled. "I just did what was right." After an hour, Dr. Henry Lawson, cardiology, appeared. He's stable for now, likely acute coronary syndrome. Early compressions made the difference. We'll keep him under close watch in CCU. His gaze turned to Isla. "You were calm, decisive." "Exactly right." On the recovery bed, Grant stirred to the steady beep of monitors. The white glare was no longer a crown of power, but the neutral ceiling of a hospital room. In the polished steel reflection, he saw his own eyes, tired, hollow, afraid. Not afraid of charges, but of the truth. Money hadn't bought him that heartbeat. After examining him, Dr. Lawson spoke slowly. "Mr. Donovan, you're very fortunate. The cafe staff gave excellent CPR. Now you need less stress, a different lifestyle. But there's one thing I can't prescribe, a new way of seeing the world." He gave a weary professional smile. "That part is up to you." When the door shut, Grant lay alone with the machines. Images replayed. The spilled sugar jar, the insults, the $15,000 envelope, inspectors' clipboards, S-dot barricades, Isla pressing life back into his chest. A strange sensation rose, not shame as usual, but defeat. 45 years of using money to crush others. 6 minutes of surviving only because of the hands of someone he had called just a waitress. He turned his head, closed his eyes, and for the first time in years, let fear move through him without striking back. He reached for his phone, called Carl Benson, his attorney. "I thought you'd still be in the OR, Grant." "Carl, cancel everything. Every suit against Aroma and Grounds, Robert, Isla, the staff, drop them all. You're still emotional from surgery? We've got a strong file on insulting VIP clients. No, draft apologies, notarized, send them to each. Carla Jenkins, Luke Porter, Paula Reed, Robert Morgan, Isla Morgan, and Carl," Grant's voice rasped. "I'll take responsibility for what I did, bribery, commercial sabotage. Work with the city attorney or King County, I'll confess." Grant, that's legal suicide. Maybe, but it's right. Silence on the line stretched taut. Then Carl sighed. All right, I'll draft the papers. But once filed, there's no going back. No going back. Grant hung up, staring at the ceiling. He felt drained, but inside the exhaustion was a hollow lightness, as if a burden had finally been set down after half a life of carrying it. That afternoon, Robert Morgan arrived, a simple fruit basket in hand. He stood by the bed, no smile, no scowl. How are you? Grant struggled upright. Thank you for coming. Isla said I should. She said anyone sick deserves a visit. The two men were quiet a moment, listening to rain against the glass. Grant spoke first. I'm sorry. Not the kind of sorry to dodge consequences. I was wrong. Robert didn't hand out absolution. He cut straight. Are you changing out of fear or out of understanding? Grant looked at his hands, bare for once, without the Rolex that had weighed like a shackle. Part fear, but when I collapsed, I saw Isla pressing on my chest, saving me, right after I had declared I wanted to destroy her. And she chose to save. In that moment I understood the thing I've been missing isn't power. It's humanity. Robert leaned lightly against the bed rail. Real change doesn't come from a speech. It comes from taking responsibility day after day. I've already called my lawyer. I'll withdraw everything, send apologies, compensate suppliers I squeezed, repay what I owe. And my employees, I want to apologize in person, at the cafe, in front of everyone, if you'll allow it. Robert nodded slightly. I hear you. I'll ask them if they want to hear you. The door opened quietly. Isla entered, denim jacket, eyes rimmed with fatigue after a long shift. Come in, honey, Robert said. She stepped closer, stopping just out of reach, a safe distance between truth and forgiveness. Grant looked at her, lips trembling. Thank you. Maybe I don't deserve it, but still, thank you. Isla nodded. Everyone deserves a second chance. The question is what you do with it. Something passed through the room, thin as mist, light as breath. No one spoke further. Isla left first. At the door, Robert paused, glanced back. I'll arrange it, but remember, words aren't enough. Action is. I know, Grant answered. As night settled over Harborview, monitors kept their steady beep. In the waiting area, Isla leaned against the wall, feeling the last adrenaline tremor fade. She texted Paula. Tomorrow recheck sanitation logs, snap proof of the SDOT sign, everything tidy. If today taught me anything, it's this. Saving lives and keeping evidence can coexist. In his room, Grant opened his eyes, gazing at the window where Seattle shimmered with lights. For the first time in years, he didn't plot revenge before sleep. He thought instead of a morning soon, standing in Aroma and Grounds, speaking the word sorry with a real voice, and accepting whatever came. Then he closed his eyes. Not the sleep of a winner, but the sleep of a man just beginning to learn another way to live. 3 days after his heart attack, Grant Donovan was discharged from the hospital with a strip of instructions. Low-salt diet, short walks, therapy, avoid stress. But the hardest task wasn't written on paper. It was stepping back into Aroma and Grounds. This time without power, without bodyguards, without rage. Only with a thick envelope and a promise. On a quiet mid-afternoon, the glass door chimed softly. Grant entered in a light coat, face pale. Carla, Luke, and Paula instinctively looked up. Robert Morgan stood at the counter, Isla beside him. You've arrived at the agreed time, Robert said, voice even. Before you speak, Let's be clear. No recording unless staff agree. No arguments. If you shift blame, this meeting ends." Grant nodded, placed the envelope on a round table at the back. "I'm here to apologize and take responsibility. No buts." He opened the envelope. Inside were 5 notarized letters stamped in blue, along with receipts showing filings with the city attorney's office. "I've withdrawn every claim I once threatened. I've confessed to bribery and commercial sabotage. Carl Benson, my lawyer, is working with the prosecutors. I'm not asking for leniency. I accept the sentence." The cafe fell silent. Grant inhaled deeply, turned to face each person in turn, to Carla Jenkins. "Mrs. Carla, for 3 years I insulted you, splashed coffee on you, demeaned your work. Nothing excuses it. This is my letter of apology, and this is a $20,000 check. Not to buy forgiveness, but to partly repay the mental harm, forced absences, medical costs for burns. I know money doesn't heal, but I owe you." Carla gripped the table edge. "I don't want your money." Grant nodded. "I understand. I've placed it in a temporary trust. It carries your name. If you ever need it, for your children's schooling, for wrist surgery, ask Isla to release it. If never, I'll redirect it to a shelter for abused employees." Tears brimmed in Carla's eyes. She couldn't force out "thank you," only nodded, turning half away to keep from breaking down. To Luke Porter, "I called you useless over a slow cappuccino. I was wrong. Here's my letter and $5,000 for advanced barista training at any school you choose. If you want, I'll sponsor your admission." Luke blinked, stunned. He looked at Isla, then Robert, then accepted the envelope with both hands. I'll study," he whispered. To Paula Reed, "I belittled you for studying at night. A man like me should have supported education, not mocked it. Here's my letter and $10,000 for tuition. If you don't accept, it will be sent directly to your school's finance office, listing you as an anonymous beneficiary." Paula opened her mouth, then closed it. "I'll use the money," she said, eyes wet, "and later pay it forward to another student." Grant turned to Robert. "I apologize for sabotaging your store, bribing the health department, pulling SDOT, and paying Mark. I've signed a sworn statement with names, sums, and dates." He placed another stack of papers. "This is my withdrawal of all complaints, plus authorizations for restitution based on your accounting of lost revenue." Robert studied the notary seals as if testing the sincerity. "I don't forgive on their behalf," he said slowly. "Forgiveness is theirs alone. As chain owner, I'll still pursue charges of public harassment and cooperate with prosecutors on bribery." Grant nodded. "I expect you to." A shadow flickered at the doorway. Mark Collins. His eyes darted like a trapped animal. Robert turned. "What are you doing here?" Mark swallowed hard. I want to apologize. I took the $15,000 to cause trouble." "I did. Here's what's left." He placed a thin envelope, obviously lightened. Grant didn't look at him. He spoke to the room. "I included Mark in my confession. I'll also sign that I was the mastermind, the one chiefly responsible. But Mark must face his part. One more thing." Grant turned to him, voice flat. "The money you kept, I won't demand it. But I'll report it. The rest of your life is yours to choose." Mark recoiled as if struck without a blow. He backed toward the door and disappeared. For the first time, Isla spoke. "I have 3 terms. 1. From today, every one of our stores posts a respect employees policy. Customers who violate it will be removed and banned for life. 2. We're setting up an internal hotline so staff can anonymously report abuse. 3. All your restitution will be labeled as exactly that, restitution, not donation. We don't take charity from the harm doer. We take accountability. Grant bowed his head. Agreed. He exhaled as though pulling a nail from his chest. I want one more thing, 10 minutes, when the cafe is closed, to speak to staff about spotting and stopping behavior like mine. Not to lecture, but to lay bare my own disgrace, hoping it's of some use. Robert looked to Isla. She weighed the request, then, after closing, no cameras with everyone present. You sit, not stand, and you answer hard questions. Yes. When Grant rose, his knees wavered. On his way out, he paused before Carla. If, one day you see me here, not today, it will be because I came to work, if Robert allows. He hesitated. I want to volunteer, wash dishes, mop floors, clean toilets, anything. I need to relearn from the start what it means to work. Robert didn't answer right away. Finally, tomorrow, 6 a.m., back door. Bring rubber gloves. If you're late, the bus still runs, but the door won't open. Grant lowered his head. For the first time, he left Aroma and grounds without leaving behind fear, only a faint line of hope, fragile but real. That night, Grant Donovan opened the safe in his South Lake Union penthouse. A few Rolexes, platinum cards, property deeds. Cold steel light reflected off a face stripped of its paint of power. The next morning, he did something his week-ago self would have mocked, called a broker, listed the penthouse, the Range Rover, the weekend yacht. Part of the money went into an escrow account for restitution. The rest was set aside to live simply and pay fines. Word spread, and the Donovan Construction Board convened an emergency session. One member said bluntly over the phone, Grant, to save the company, you should step down as CEO. Grant paused, then, I agree. Have you lost your mind? Maybe, but for the first time, I'm clear. 3 days later, he signed his resignation. The financial report noted dryly, resignation for personal reasons. At noon, he returned the garage keys, dropped his access card into a plastic tray. The guard gave a small nod, no bow as before. And that was right. He moved into a 2-room apartment near Bus Line 49, furnished with a single wooden bed, a folding table, and an electric kettle. That evening, he attended his first therapy session. The doctor asked, when you insulted others, what did you feel? Power. And after they saved you? Grant looked at his hands, empty, then ashamed, and light. Light because I didn't need to keep playing the role anymore. 6 a.m. Seattle still foggy, sidewalks hushed under footsteps. The back door of Aroma and Grounds swung open. Robert stood there, watch precise as a caliper. You're on time. Inside was the wash station. Steel sinks, high-pressure sprayer, plastic racks, the scent of soap mixed with bleach. Luke handed Grant a plastic apron and gloves. Put these on. 3 sinks, rinse, wash, sanitize. Quaternary solution must stay 200 to 400 parts per million. Test strip should read faint purple. Grant nodded, no boasting, no pretense. Luke glanced at Isla, who stood observing in the corner. She didn't intervene. First batch, cappuccino cups. Grant set them in the wrong order. Luke corrected. Don't stack cups wet. They'll mold. Got it. And don't dump coffee grounds down the drain. You'll clog the trap. Understood. Luke's tone was dry, instructional. But in his eyes something softened. The man who once called him useless was learning from him. The bathroom was the next trial. Carla handed Grant a bucket, brush, deodorizing solution. Top to bottom, mirror, sink, toilet, then floor, not the other way around. Grant knelt, rubber gloves crinkling at the wrists. The ammonia sting burned his eyes. He worked slowly, methodically. The door opened. A male customer startled at the sight of Grant, the former boss, scrubbing tiles. Grant looked up, voice plain. "Sorry about the smell. I'll be done quickly." Back at the sinks, Paula dropped off a tray of plates. "We're short on clean towels. I'll leave these here." "Thank you." She froze half a beat. The words "thank you" sounded strange coming from him. By 8:30, customers filled the cafe. Grant slipped to the stockroom, hefted 25-pound bags of beans onto shelves. Once, he'd have seen this as someone else's job. Now, every lift reminded him that work wasn't giving orders. Sweat dampened his collar. Isla passed by, flicked on the ceiling fan. "Don't strain," she said, not mocking. "Take 30 seconds when tired. Long endurance beats short pride." Near noon, coffee fragrance thick in the air, Robert called everyone together, brief and firm. 2 things. 1. Starting this week, we rotate duties so everyone understands each link. 2. Here. He held up a new poster. Customers pay for coffee, not for the right to insult human dignity. Beneath it, the internal hotline number. The cafe broke into applause. Small, but warm. During a short break, Grant drank water, gloves still wet. "Luke, this test strip's a bit pale." Luke blinked at the notice. "Yeah, right. Add 1 cap of sanitizer." Grant followed, handed back a strip now perfectly purple. Luke nodded. Something small had just clicked into place. Later, with business slowed, Carla approached the sinks. "Empty the trash before it overflows, and, if you see me carrying heavy, just say so. I'll let you help." Grant looked up. "I'll take it." He strapped the bag, lifted with proper posture. What he'd learned in therapy. You can't help others if you injure yourself. End of shift. His hands wrinkled like prunes. Robert skimmed the checklist. No lateness, no complaints, no swagger. Come back tomorrow. Grant didn't smile, only said, "Thank you." Out the back door, Seattle's cold wind cut his collar. He skipped the habit of calling a car, boarded the 49 bus. Fogged glass slid past a city at the pace of someone no longer rushing to prove anything. His phone buzzed. Carl Benson texted court dates with the prosecutors. The broker reported a deposit on the penthouse. Harborview's scheduling desk confirmed a cardiology consult. A strand of personal history was knitting itself together again, not to choke, but to hold him steady. That night, the small apartment hummed only with the fridge. Grant draped the plastic apron over a chair, opened a notebook, scribbled, "Today learned test strip, 3-sink order, restroom rules. Still owe 3 apologies to night shift staff. Buy thicker gloves." He turned off the light early. For the first time in years, sleep came without liquor, without the whispers of power in his head, only muscle ache and a thin ribbon of peace. Peace earned with dish soap, bleach, and honest apologies. That night, aroma and grounds went dark outside, leaving only a strip of warm yellow lights over the counter. Doors locked, blinds half drawn. A circle of wooden chairs surrounded a low table. Robert stood, repeating the ground rules. No filming. No personal attacks, but hard questions are encouraged. Grant sits. He doesn't stand unless invited. Begin. Grant Donovan sat upright, hands resting on his knees, not crossed as before. Isla recorded audio internally, with everyone's consent, for later review. Paula spoke first, her voice steady. "You despised me for studying nights. Why?" Grant didn't dodge. "Because I equated busy with school, with low productivity. I was wrong. I thought money gave me the right to grade other people's dreams." Paula. Are you sure restitution funds aren't just image repair? Grant. No one can buy your perception. I labeled it restitution, not donation. If the fund operates, Isla has the right to make the books public. If I exploit it, shut it down. Luke leaned back in his chair. Why did you pick on weaker people? The real reason. Grant drew a breath. Because they were least likely to fight back. I liked the sound of my voice unchallenged. It gave me the illusion that I mattered. Luke nodded slowly. At least you call it by its name. Carla touched the bandage on her hand. If one day you lose control again, what keeps you from turning back into the old Grant? Grant. I signed a safety plan with my therapist. When anger surges, I step outside, call my therapist or Carl, whoever picks up first, and leave the scene. I also signed with Robert. If anyone here says stop, I stop, walk out, and come back next shift. No arguing. A night shift worker raised a hand. If you get rich again tomorrow, would your tune change? Grant pressed his lips. I sold the company, left the CEO chair. I don't have a stage to play the big man. I don't know the future, but I know now. I choose to stay low. Silence lingered. Robert looked around. Anyone else? None. He nodded. Session closed. Tomorrow you start rotating shifts. Dishes, bathrooms, stockroom, bar support. He paused, adding softly, Thank you all for speaking plainly. The next week, an unexpected test came. Morning rush hour. A middle-aged man, sports jacket, hot blood boiling, slammed his cup down. I said extra hot, 200 degrees. This is lukewarm hand wash. Paula drew breath, ready with the complaint protocol. The man raised his voice, glaring at Luke. What kind of idiot makes this? Useless. One word cut into an old wound. Grant stepped out from the wash station, keeping a safe distance. Sir, let me handle this. We'll remake your drink for free. Exactly the temperature you ask, but no insults toward staff. Here, respect comes with the coffee. The man snarled, Who are you? Grant. A volunteer, and the one accountable if you're still unsatisfied after the second cup. The customer glared, eyes catching the poster. Customers pay for coffee, not the right to insult human dignity. His tone softened a notch. Fine, make it again, 190 degrees. Paula held the thermometer, Luke steamed the milk, Grant logged the request, and apologized for the experience. The new drink landed. The customer sipped, nodded. That's better. He left without apologizing, but without another insult. Luke exhaled relief. Carla flicked Grant a wink. Good job. That afternoon, video of Isla giving Grant CPR hit the internet. Local news ran the clip. Waitress saves man who once bullied her. Public opinion split. Some hailed Isla as a hero, others sneered, PR stunt. Isla shut down comments on the cafe page, pinned one line. We do not ask for praise. Please do not harass anyone involved. Our staff are not public figures. The city attorney's office sent a schedule. Carl Benson relayed. They propose a plea, fines, probation, no contact with 2 officials under investigation, hundreds of community hours. You cooperate on bribery cases. Grant. Sign, no bargaining. Carl. Grant, at least. Grant. I've already taken too much of their time. At evening therapy, the doctor asked, Today, did you feel the pull of power again? Grant thought, yes, when the customer yelled at Luke. I wanted to slam the table, but I chose the line, I take responsibility. That line reminded me my heart had stopped. The doctor nodded. Keep that line, it's your new anchor. A week later, Aroma and Grounds held its first internal training. Designed by Isla and Robert, responding to abuse, 3-step boundary method, remind, warn, end service, script for verbal harassment, safe documentation protocol. Grant sat in the back, taking notes. During role play, Isla suddenly pointed, "Grant, you play the difficult customer. Carla, Luke, your staff." Grant played difficult just enough, not exaggerated. Carla followed the formula. "I want to help, but I need you to stay respectful. If not, I'll stop serving." They didn't even reach step 3. The situation cooled. The room clapped lightly, no fanfare, and that made the outcome credible. That night, Isla received an anonymous email. "I work nights at a diner down the street." A group of customers yelled, snapped photos, posted my name after I spilled sauce. "Is there any way to help?" Ela replied briefly, "Yes. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., meet me at Aroma and Grounds. Don't endure alone." She sat for a long while, thinking of shifts her cafe couldn't reach, with hundreds of places like that in the city each day. The thought of a larger structure returned. Clearer this time, an organization to catch the invisible cries. Isla met Robert during a quiet moment. "Dad, I think it's time to design what I mentioned before. A fund with a hotline, with lawyers, counselors, emergency grants, and Grant, if you allow, working as field coordinator going where the hurt is." Robert looked at her. "Can you set boundaries? Make sure the fund doesn't become his redemption stage?" Isla: "I'll write it into the rules. No victim images used for PR. Full monthly transparency, independent board oversight." Robert nodded. Then, "Start writing." On the bus ride home, Isla looked out through fogged glass. Seattle sprawled in lights like a map of opportunities layered over wounds. Somewhere, someone was still being told to pick sugar off the floor in a bully's imagination. She texted Grant, "Tomorrow, 7 p.m., draft charter. Bring a listening head." Grant replied with only 3 words, "I will listen." The first draft unfolded in a quiet corner of the cafe. Isla spread out papers, typing steadily. Grant sat still, never interrupting, speaking only when called on. Robert stood behind, skimming, occasionally adding a real-world note. Organization name, Second Chance Foundation. Type, nonprofit, applying for 501c3 status. Mission, to protect dignity in the workplace by providing legal, psychological, and emergency financial support, as well as job transition, especially for service workers, restaurants, retail, janitorial. Red line principles, Isla read aloud. No victim images, details used for PR. Monthly financial transparency. Publish all transactions greater than $500. Independent board, 5 members. A labor lawyer, a trauma therapist, a service union rep, a respected small business owner, and a survivor. Robert serves as a non-voting advisor to avoid conflict of interest. Grant's restitution kept separate from operations, in a restricted fund only for Donovan. Case victims. Annual independent audit. Programs, Isla typed into bullets. 24/7 hotline, starting 12-24 hours depending on budget. Staffed with trauma-trained. Responders. Therapy vouchers. First 6 sessions free with partner therapists. Legal aid, network of labor lawyers offering pro bono or low bono support. Help with. Complaints, evidence logging, negotiations. Emergency fund, $500 to $1,500 grants within 30 days. Rent, childcare, transport. So, workers don't have to endure abuse just to keep a job. Job bridge, connect workers to safer workplaces, prioritizing businesses signing the Respect at Work Pledge. Owner, Manager. Training. 2-hour workshops on de-escalation, boundary policy, and complaint procedures. Roles. Isla Morgan. President, CEO. Unpaid for 6 months. Later, board decides. Grant Donovan. Field Coordinator. Handles difficult cases, field observation, risk, reports. No press, no money handling. Robert Morgan. Honorary Advisor. Opening SME networks. Resources. Grant when invited. I'll transfer 50% of my assets, estimated $52 million, into a permanent endowment, conservatively invested. Annual disbursement 3.5 to 4%, prioritized for direct services. I have no control over spending. Isla. That covers thousands of cases, but we need 18 months of operating funds, staff, legal assistant, hotline, small office. Robert. I'll rally 5 business owners I trust to sign the pledge and contribute $50,000 each in exchange for training and annual environment checks. No logos on victims. Grant added, I'll set aside $1 million separately for the emergency fund startup outside the endowment. They looked at each other. The picture fit. Launch day was quiet. No MC, no LED backdrop. Just a handwritten sign. Second Chance Foundation. You're not alone. Isla spoke briefly. We're not here to rescue anyone. We stand beside them. Grant stayed in the back row, hands clasped behind his back, so if a camera panned, it caught only the chest of someone else. The first case arrived that very afternoon. Maya Ortiz, 26, diner waitress, single mom, the one who had emailed Isla. She recounted nervously. 3 male customers cursed, snapped photos when I bent down, posted online calling me airhead. My manager told me to just put up with it, they're regulars. Isla handed her the script. We document, time, shift lead's name, screenshots. Grant goes with you. Observes from the counter, doesn't confront. That night, they entered the diner as ordinary customers. Grant sat near the bar, watching interactions. When the 3 men returned, the mockery began again. Isla signaled Maya to apply the 3 steps. 1. I want to serve you. Please stay respectful. 2. If it continues, I'll stop serving and call the manager. 3. When abuse persisted, Isla stepped in. I'm with Second Chance. State law allows refusal of service when harassment occurs. If you don't stop, we'll ask you to leave and help staff file a report. The manager, initially avoiding, was quietly pulled aside by Robert, who had slipped in unnoticed. You signed the pledge. You got free training. Now honor it. In front of customers, the manager sided with Maya. The men barked a few more seconds, then left. Not a dramatic victory, just a boundary restored. After the shift, Maya wept. I thought I'd have to endure forever. Turns out I can say no. The emergency fund wired her $900 to cover childcare that month, letting her skip 2 night shifts without losing her job. Legal aid scheduled a review of her workplace safety complaint. Case 2. A night janitor, cursed daily by his shift lead. Grant accompanied a union rep, legally recording. Result, the lead was reassigned. Internal hotline opened. Case 3. A teenage barista, trolled by customers with edited mocking clips. Second Chance worked with the platform to remove them. Therapy vouchers covered 6 sessions. Job Bridge moved her to a cafe that had signed the pledge. 3 months later, the first public metrics were posted, per their pledge. 128 hotline calls, 12 24 hours staffed. 74 direct interventions. 41 therapy vouchers active. $86,500 emergency fund disbursed. 22 businesses signed the Respect at Work pledge. 0 PR pieces using victim images or sensitive details. Attached, a mini audit report from a local firm, not glossy but clear. One twilight, Grant stood behind the dish station at Aroma and Grounds, reading the monthly report Isla slid over. She said, "We're not heroes. We just reset order where others tried to bend it, and order won't hold without structure." Grant nodded, eyes catching the line. Maya Ortiz, shift transferred attending free safety class Wednesday nights. He thought of Carla, Luke, Paula, of himself scrubbing restroom tiles like learning the ABCs of respect. That night, before locking up, Robert taped a small frame next to the poster of rules. If you've ever been insulted at work, tell us. Here, boundaries aren't lip service. R.M. Grant shut off the dishroom lights, pulled off his gloves, glanced once more at the poster. Outside, the 49 bus slid past. He thought, some roads home appear only when you dare to return to where you went wrong, stay long enough to pay the debt, then move forward. Not to forget, but to not repeat. Tomorrow, 6 a.m. again, rinse, wash, sanitize. And elsewhere in the city, the hotline would ring a few more times. The point wasn't how often it rang, but that each time someone picked up. Spring brought a gentle warmth to Seattle. But inside courtroom 14 of King County Superior Court, the air was cold and tense as if it were still winter. Today was the first hearing for Grant Donovan, a name once spoken with both respect and fear in the city's business circles. Now, Grant appeared stripped of that aura of power. He sat quietly, wearing a simple shirt and dark slacks, silver hair showing, his face free of arrogance or pride. Beside him sat his lawyer, Carl Benson, calm in demeanor though his eyes betrayed concern. Across the aisle, representing the prosecution, was Linda Coleman, a veteran King County prosecutor known for her uncompromising approach. Wealth and power never shielded anyone from her scrutiny. She stepped to the podium, her voice sharp and commanding. "Your Honor, we are here today because of a series of deeply troubling and dangerous actions committed by Mr. Grant Donovan. Acts of harassment, commercial sabotage, and bribery of public officials intended to crush a family-owned business in Seattle. The evidence is clear. What makes this case unusual, however, is that Mr. Donovan himself has admitted full responsibility." She turned, fixing Grant with a probing look before continuing. "Yet an admission of guilt does not erase the harm done to this community, nor to the individuals who suffered at his hands. Today's proceeding, Your Honor, is about determining what justice requires." The first witness to take the stand was Carla Jenkins. The woman Grant had humiliated walked slowly forward, her hands trembling slightly. She looked toward Grant before speaking in a quiet but steady voice. "I'm Carla Jenkins. I've worked at Aroma and Grounds for 8 years. For the past 3, every time Mr. Donovan entered that cafe, I was terrified. His insults, the way he deliberately spilled hot coffee on me, turned my work days into a constant state of fear. I thought about quitting many times, but I had children to feed. I don't believe an apology alone can undo the damage, but I do appreciate that he has finally accepted responsibility." When Carla stepped down, silence filled the room. Next came Luke Porter, the young barista. He took a deep breath before speaking. "I'm only 18. I don't know much about life yet. But every time Mr. Donovan insulted me in front of coworkers and customers, my self-respect took a hit. I started believing I really was useless, like he said. But recently, I've seen him trying to rebuild himself. I don't know if he's truly changed, but I think everyone deserves the chance to prove it." One by one, more the witnesses spoke, each with their own story of harm caused by Grant, each bearing scars. But woven through their testimony were faint threads of hope, born from his recent attempts at restitution. Finally, Grant was allowed to address the court. He rose slowly, inhaled deeply, and spoke with deliberate calm. "Your Honor, I know I've caused lasting harm to many people. I offer no excuses, no justifications. I stand here today ready to accept whatever punishment the court deems just. I don't only apologize, I pledge to devote the rest of my life to repairing what I can, to helping and protecting people like Carla, Luke, and the others I've wronged. I do not ask for easy forgiveness, only for the chance to prove I have truly changed." The courtroom was silent. Judge Margaret Wilson, known for fairness but also severity, looked directly at Grant. "Mr. Donovan, this court has reviewed the evidence and testimony presented today. It is significant that you admitted your crimes and cooperated fully in exposing the bribery and sabotage schemes. Nevertheless, your actions inflicted serious damage on both individuals and the community's trust in justice. Therefore, the court rules as follows. You are sentenced to 12 months of probation, 300 hours of community service with charities designated by the court, mandatory participation in anger management and emotional regulation therapy, full restitution to the victims for costs incurred, and a ban from holding any management or executive position in any business for the next 2 years. Grant nodded slowly, eyes reflecting complete acceptance. He turned to look at the victims. His expression softened. When the session ended, he walked out of the courtroom. No bodyguards, no press swarming, only silence surrounding a man taking measured steps toward atonement. At the courthouse steps, Isla was waiting, her eyes full of quiet concern. She asked softly, "Grant, are you all right?" He managed a faint smile, voice sincere. "I think this is the first time in my life I've ever felt truly light, because at last, I've begun to pay back even a small part of what I owe." The two stood together, gazing out toward the bustling streets beyond, both aware that while justice could be harsh, it was also the only road by which a man could truly return to life and to himself. 6 months after the trial closed, summer returned to the Seattle sky. The sun cast soft golden rays through the misted glass of aroma and grounds. It was an ordinary morning, yet the cafe seemed more vibrant than usual. Grant Donovan, once the terror of this place, now bustled about in a black apron, swiftly polishing glass cups. His movements had become so natural that no one recognized him as the former powerful CEO. There were no wary glances or uneasy stares anymore, only friendly smiles and cheerful greetings each morning. "Morning, Grant. You're here early today?" Luke laughed as he clocked in. "Good morning, Luke," Grant replied gently. "I slept well last night, so I woke up a little earlier." The door opened with a soft chime. Isla Morgan entered, carrying a thick folder stamped with the Second Chance Foundation logo. She walked quickly to Grant, speaking quietly but with excitement. "Grant, our hotline got more than 20 new cases last week. Tonight I want to meet with you about expanding on-site training sessions for staff in small restaurants across the area." Grant nodded, eyes bright with energy. "Absolutely. I also just got a few emails from managers wanting to sign the new pledge. It seems what we're doing is really making a difference." Just then, Robert Morgan stepped out of the small back office. He joined them, nodding thoughtfully. "What you're building goes far beyond what I imagined. But remember, be cautious. Always protect the privacy of victims. We're restoring trust in the community, not doing charity for appearances." Isla and Grant answered together, "We understand." The cafe grew quiet again when the door opened once more. Carla Jenkins entered, dressed a little more neatly than usual. She walked toward Grant, speaking softly. "Today's my first day in the restaurant management class, funded by Second Chance. I just wanted to stop by to let you all know and to thank you for the support." Grant gently set down the glass in his hand, turned to Carla with sincere eyes. "Carla, I should be the one thanking you. You and everyone here gave me a second chance. Without your forgiveness and support, I wouldn't be standing here today." Carla looked at him, her gaze softened, and finally she smiled. "We all deserve a second chance, Grant." The cafe filled with gentle applause, not loud but warm. A sound Grant had never heard as a CEO, a sound filled with sincerity and trust, something money and power could never buy. After the morning shift, Grant removed his apron, sat at a small corner table, and wrote a brief journal entry. "Today marks 180 days working at Aroma and Grounds, and 120 days since Second Chance Foundation officially launched. I realize I'm happier now than I ever was when I was wealthy and powerful. Each time we help someone escape workplace abuse, I feel alive, I feel worthy." That evening, Grant and Isla met in the small office. Isla spread out a large map marked with every program site. She said thoughtfully, "I'm considering branches in Tacoma, Bellevue, Olympia. I want us to reach more people, expand safe workplace training for small businesses, and add more mental health hotlines." Grant looked at the map, pride welling with emotion. He nodded firmly. "I fully support it. I'm ready to go anywhere you need, to build relationships, talk directly with staff and managers. I believe face-to-face listening will be the key to lasting trust." Isla smiled warmly. "Grant, I still can't believe how far we've come in such a short time." Grant looked up at her, voice earnest. "It's because of you and everyone else. I used to think wealth and power were everything. But the real treasures are simple, working honestly, helping others, waking up each day without regret." A week later, local news reported that Second Chance Foundation was expanding statewide. A small photo showed Grant, not labeled former wealthy CEO, but simply Grant Donovan, field coordinator of Second Chance, with Isla Morgan, launching worker dignity programs in Tacoma. That night, Grant returned to his modest apartment. He sat quietly, taking in the small but orderly space. No penthouse, no yacht, but for the first time he felt true peace. Before bed, he added a short line to his journal. "I had to lose everything before I realized what matters most. Dignity, kindness, and the awareness that every action touches someone else's life. From today until the end, I will never forget this lesson." He closed the notebook, more at peace than he had ever been. Tomorrow, he knew he would rise again, board the familiar number 49 bus, and continue the search for life's true meaning, one he had only just begun. Thus ended the journey of Grant Donovan, from a powerful millionaire to a humble man rediscovering himself through compassion and respect. Sometimes the greatest mistakes open the doors to the most valuable changes. What do you think about Grant's story? Does everyone deserve a second chance no matter what they've done? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss the next inspiring story. Thank you, and see you next time.